the Cabinet has given high-speed rail the green signal. We are going to get this done.
It's costing more than £100 billion.
Homes in South Yorkshire will be demolished.
And the harm to the environment will be catastrophic.
I'm Mark here. I guess I'm happy to call myself Earth Protector. This camp has been here for just over a year, and I've been here for most of that time. This is Jones Hill Wood. This is part of our cultural heritage. This is the woodland that inspired Roald Dahl to write The Fantastic Mr. Fox, and it's been a wonderful, beautiful home for a little community of the protesters.
My name's Pigeon, and I've been here since spring last year. I grew up not far from here actually, and I've always sort of, HS2 for the last sort of more than 10 years now has sort of been sort of something in the background. HS2 stands for High Speed 2, so it's sort of like a follow-on from the Channel Tunnel link. Phase 1 is going to connect London from Euston to Birmingham, and there's 2 more arms which reach up north after that.
They started off by saying that we needed it to save time. It's actually going to take more time because of the journey at either end. They then said it's about capacity. Well, I'm sorry, but there's a railway just half a mile from here on the other side of the valley. Most times the train goes past, there are only 2 or 3 passengers on it. And it runs from Marylebone to Birmingham. There are already 21 routes that connect the north to London. When HS2 was first mooted, they were talking about £9 billion. Much as they tried to hide the fact, it very quickly started rising from that before they actually sort of had to tell the press that actually it's going to be 88 billion. Actually, it's going to be 108 billion, which is over a third of our annual national budget.
And that's not just affecting people who live locally to where the line's going to be built, that's affecting every single person in the country. Every single person in the country. That means that's 200 billion less spent on the NHS or a lot of housing that needs to be built that could be built with that type of money. It's crazy, it's an obscene amount of money.
It's 108 ancient woodlands in the whole line are going to be affected. There's something in the region of 70 of those will actually involve direct felling. We have to get a grasp of this. The most prime part of our natural heritage is our ancient woodlands. This woodland, the trees and this soil that I'm sitting on has been here since the Ice Age, gradually accruing more and more and more biodiversity. This is what makes ancient woodlands irreplaceable. And this is one of the most important sinks of carbon. It's one of the most important repositories of nature, and there's nothing more important to our survival than actually having nature alongside us. We're killing all the things that we need to survive climate change, to try and reverse climate change. And the whole thing is being driven by a complete and utter lack of democracy. We've never been asked, the people have never been asked whether they want HS2. There was a period through Parliament where people were allowed to put in a petition, and the only people who were allowed to petition were people who were directly affected. So if you lived even a mile from the route, you didn't have any right to petition.
I'm called Joanna. I've lived here for nearly about 40 years now. It's an area of outstanding natural beauty. It's something that should be cherished and not destroyed for a train that we don't need. It's too expensive, it's too divisive, it's too destructive. HS2 came along and now they're cutting down our woods, our hedgerows. Doesn't matter if it's the breeding season for birds and animals. And for what? For what? It just breaks my heart breaks my heart.
HS2 have destroyed so many communities. There are villages up the line which have been completely ripped apart. How can you give back to those communities? You've wrecked the community. There is no community left. This woodland is such a beautiful place to be. And the school along the road got a new playground. How does that fit in with what they're losing? It just does not equal. There's no equality there. Down here we've got a farm. They've had something in the region of 50% of their land had a compulsory purchase order on it. Basically, it means the farm is no longer viable because they haven't got enough land. They had no choice. They had to go along with it. The individuals who are involved, their lives are in tatters. They no longer have a future for their son, or their grandson, or their great-grandson, or their great-great-great-grandson. It's not there anymore.
It would be the most incredible thing if we were able to make sure that the communities here don't have their homes taken from them. And there's lots of ways to see the outcomes of the protests here as a win.
Really, the main idea of protest is to raise publicity, raise public awareness. We have to make sure that the public know the incredible extent of this destruction. As the eviction is part of the protest, that's where we get our oxygen, that's where we get our press coverage, that's where we get our publicity.
In October, when there was an eviction, yeah, that was quite a brutal process. The Net team who do the evictions are notoriously violent. It was a long eviction. It ended up being 9 days.
But it made the news, and it got us so much coverage. It was so full of violence, not from us, but from them.
I personally chose to take an action with good conscience to try to prevent this work occurring. I came here and I saw the destruction. I had genuine belief that wildlife crimes were being committed. I noticed the digger moving and a gap where in a place where I could jump over the fence. So I ran and jumped over the fence and ran onto the digger, and I glued myself to the top of the truck. That this was an action that I felt necessary to prevent crime from taking place.
Even as the eviction was going on, our ecology work was still going on, and it paid off. Just before they had evicted us, we came across a Barbas tail bat coming out of a roost in an oak tree up at the far end of the wood there. Barbas tail bats are among the rarest bats in the UK, among the rarest bats in Europe.
And it's afforded quite a high level of protection, and they conveniently ignored the presence of those bat roosts.
They were about to fell this woodland illegally. Our protest, our camp, actually stopped a crime. The other thing that has been very, very important to us around here are the badgers. The way of getting rid of badgers, however licensed it might be, is incredibly inhumane. Basically, you stick a steel gate over the set entrance, which is a one-way flap, and the badgers can come out, but they can't get back in. You just dehomed a badger. Any badger being dehomed has to cross busy roads before it can possibly get to territory that is free of other badgers. Badgers are very, very territorial. This is how we deplete our own nature.
They've been felling here in the last 2 weeks, which has caused a huge amount of damage. They've removed all of the understory, which provides a lot of the habitat for the sort of insects and small animals that larger prey animals would feed on. So it really disrupts the whole ecosystem.
Because we have really, really pushed the method that HS2 have been using and shown it to be so incredibly short of what they always claimed they were going to be doing, and incredibly far short of any legal position they should be in. They now are having to do it as close as they can to a legal position, which means they're soft felling every single tree. They have to cut off all the branches one by one, and then they cut down each tree one by one. It does mean that we have some hope that things will be done properly in future. And it does also mean that even now, even the piece of wood that is being destroyed over there, there's enough of it right now that makes it still viable as a piece of ancient woodland, as long as it doesn't go any further than it is now. And hopefully our protest and our work with the ecology and our legal case right now is going to protect that last little vestige over there. Hopefully.
So, it's such a beautiful moment. Only hours ago we were witnessing the destruction of this beautiful ancient woodland, and now we have served the paperwork on the HS2 site, and Jones Hill Wood is, for now, is preserved and it's peaceful.
I would like to speak to the site manager. You want to read it? In the High Court of Justice, Queen's Bench Division, Planning Court, the Queen, on the application of Mark here, that's me, versus Natural England.
So it says the interested parties and forthwith are restrained from carrying out works and other activities at Jones Hill Wood, Buckinghamshire, in the licensed area as defined in licence WML OR 58, issued by Natural England on 30th of March 2020.